Hello, this is John with Brainstorm Comics and Gaming, and this is this week's Turning the Page. This week I am here with Chris. Can't help falling in love, and you're not going to help falling in love with American Tattoo down in Brunswick, Maryland. Yes, I'm going to try and make Chris cry with as many different
They
introductions.
just get worse and worse every week.
2 weeks ago, you said they were getting better.
Well, I've changed my mind. I've changed my position on that subject.
Are we going to have to refilm all the different?
Nah,
You change your top.
cool.
Okay. So our first topic this week, Chris, is PW. We're going to do something outside of what we normally do. Normally we just cover comics, but we're going to talk about something that I think may have an effect on the comic industry and something that I think may be going on to some degree, maybe not as badly as what it is in the card market, but we'll see. So
We'll see.
we'll see. So in the card industry, the big boy there is PWCC. And last week, Brian Wiggins, I think is how you pronounce his name.
I think so.
It's
That sounds right.
he's the president, and they were sanctioned by eBay. They were removed from.
They were eBay's top card seller.
They made I think it was $1 billion. They said
a lot of money.
on
A
the
lot of
platform
money.
like a year
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how much money that
lot.
they were doing. So like I said, they're huge seller for the company, not just for theirs, but for eBay. eBay takes a percentage of every fee.
They were the official eBay seller of collectible cards. Yeah.
Exactly. So eBay removed them from their platform. Now, I had never heard of PWCC, so I looked up the articles. I started reading it, and then and I also came across articles, which I also sent to you, wherein they have been under investigation for the last 4 years
Indictments.
by the FBI,
FBI.
where they were trimming their cards in order to get a higher grade from the grading companies. I didn't read much into it in terms of whether the grading companies were involved in it in any way, whether they were helping them hide it or whether they reported them or.
It didn't seem so from the articles that I read. I dug a little deeper into it because it fascinated me. The big thing that they got busted for and what they're being indicted for is shill bidding and fraud.
So the eBay one is about the shill bidding, yes. So they were contacting other customers of theirs and telling them to place bids. And allegedly, eBay is accusing them of this.
As screenshots show.
I will place the articles in the description. I don't
Sure,
want to say
sure,
anything
sure.
definitively as.
Yeah, the examples they sent that were in the articles that I read were screenshots from representatives of the company to people who had cards listed on their site being told to.
And the guy was saying, "Well, I don't want to win this. I don't want to bid that." And he's like, "Don't worry about it."
It was also it was a card that ended up selling for $10 million or something like that. They were huge bids. They were just go ahead and pop $1 million on there. You'll be outbid.
Yeah, he was telling them, "You'll be fine. Don't worry about it."
It's a lot of money.
So the reason I'm talking about this is because there are several big players that push the market in comic books. And I want to make it clear before I go any further, I'm not accusing any of these people of doing the same thing, but I'm saying that there is a lot of concentrated power within the industry that does move the market.
Sure.
So I'm going to throw out names, and like I said, I'm not saying that they are doing the same thing. I'm not saying that there's again, I'm just saying that there's the potential at some point.
Are we going to get in trouble? Do I have to call my lawyer? Are we going to get sued over this?
Well, like I said, I'm just saying fears of mine, because everybody is afraid that we're in a bubble, and everybody keeps getting very afraid of the prices that are skyrocketing, and they're not going up by small percentages on some books. They're going up by some ridiculous percentages.
Maybe we should just say that it's very obvious who we're talking about, and maybe not mention names.
Okay. So there's some very big auction houses and stuff that are big movers of big dollar keys for
some YouTubers, some bloggers.
Yes, a lot of social media influencers in the industry, and
Mm-hmm.
influencers in the true meaning of the word for
in this case, yeah,
for comic books. People listen to them. They have tens of thousands of followers, and even if 25% of them listen to them, that's a huge move in the market for.
And you can watch the market move as to what they recommend and say you should pick up. So it's very blatant. That
and let's not forget apps either.
There's, sure. Key collector, all that good stuff.
So much for not mentioning names.
I mean, we're not talking bad about that particular site. We're just saying it's a
But I mean,
a resource and a tool.
Not just them though, but there's other ones.
Sure, there's other ones. There's a plethora of them.
So, number one, there's a lot of incestuous sort of relationships within the comic book industry. A lot of the social media influencers are directly tied to those apps and blogs and those pay services so I'm not going to lie, at least they're very open about it. Most of them go, hey, we're sponsored by X, Y, or Z.
Sure.
And they openly push the app within their...
And a lot of those folks have separate pages and do their own thing, but collectively, make these videos and make these recommendations together. I mean, as much as it's, the industry's fault or the market's fault, it's our fault too for listening to them and allowing it to happen. Not that there's anybody at fault. Like, don't let me preface that by saying, I don't think that they're giving necessarily bad information or bad advice. They're just doing what speculators do, and they're doing it to a huge audience, which in turn makes other people do it, which makes the market fluctuate hugely.
So these people are also tied to the grading companies. Some of them are like, hey, I'm a CBCS guy, I'm a CGC guy. Nobody says I'm a PGX guy, but...
I don't think anybody's taken that one.
So, but they do like say that as well. Like, hey, I'm, use my code and you can get 10% off of whatever. And they're also tied to stores. Some of them are tied to stores. I can think of at least 3 big ones that are directly tied to an online store or a brick and mortar store.
And to be fair, there's a bunch of pages, internet, YouTube pages, Twitch stream pages, just regular websites that do their own store exclusive, do their own exclusive variants and stuff. So that's not a them thing. It's a very wide thing.
So when you're that connected to all of it, though, like the front end, the back end, like it makes
all the ends.
Yes. There does start to become questions as to the information that you're passing along, whether you have a vested interest in pushing a certain book or what have you. One of the social media people also report on sales that are not on eBay, like an unreported sale or a private sale. And I hate that. I think I've talked about this on one of the previous ones. Like, how do you confirm this? Like, why are we taking your word that you know of this private sale?
I think a lot of this is up to the collector to kind of sort through what the hype is and stuff like that. And I guess kind of like the flip side of that coin is it's not like they're giving bad advice in investment. Everything that they're saying, there's some kind of information to back it up. It's a minor key. It's a first appearance. It's something of that. So it's something that's already of a key nature that they're just saying such and such is maybe coming up for this. Keep a lookout for this book. And then they attach a bunch of numbers and percentages to it to give it validity or whatever and make it sound scientific and whatnot. So it's not like they're selling snake oil or like, shill bidding or something like that. It's just that I think the nature of the speculative market in comic books anyway is a whole lot of, I think this book is going to be hot because of this.
So social media influencers are just the first layer that I'm talking about, though. So then let's go up to the auction houses. Sure. These are places that submit, I assume, thousands of books to CBCS and CGC on a regular basis. Being that deeply entrenched with a company. And again, I'm not saying that it is done. I'm saying that there's a possibility that it could be done. If somebody submits 1,000 books to you a month, you might be a little bit more willing to give them half a grade higher than what the book actually is because it is so subjective.
I mean, but that like you just said, it's super subjective. Like grading is a subjective thing from point A to point B. You're interpreting a written set of instructions and guidelines. So you could see something as, with the Batman book that just came back, that you and I, there is zero way that is a 9.2. I will die on that hill. But it came back a 9.2. So,
we are going to throw that one in the press. So.
Whew, man. But it's kind of crazy that this whole system that we've built for ourselves, this whole collecting community, is all built on faith and hopes and dreams. Really, small ones, sometimes big ones.
That's why you've heard me tell people, like, buy the things you like.
Sure.
Like, don't chase. There was a kid in here yesterday who was telling me, like, oh, I want to, I'm buying this because I want my college to be paid for. I'm like, don't buy it for.
You ain't paying for college on Riri Williams or Miles Morales. Sorry. I mean, maybe, but I don't see that happening. I just think that,
like I said, I try to be honest with them. Like,
sure.
I don't think you do anybody any favors by selling them a false dream, and all you're going to do is make them bitter about the industry and hate it at some point.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same thing that happened in the 90s when everybody thought all those image books were going to be worth $10 billion. They're not.
But I have like 100 Spawn.
We have all the Spawn ones ever. Man. They gave them out like Tide samples, I feel like, in the suburbs. You just got the Washington Post and a Spawn one. Yeah, I think a lot of this is really, it starts with the collectors and having some kind of intelligence about something. You know what I mean?
The problem is when you put so much money into something, like people.
Well, in my eyes, if you think you're putting so much money into something, you would do some research and you would try to figure out where you're spending your money.
So I'm talking about it on a couple of different levels. So I'm talking about like when you start putting that much money into things, people get a little bit more greedy. People get a little bit more blinded.
I mean, there's been blatant evidence of people manipulating the market. I mean, we've talked about that before with that crazy Spider-Man variant, the second print or third print or whatever.
It was an experiment.
It was an experiment, sure. Yeah, experiment. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Where that guy, whatever. That guy blatantly hyped a book up and went from cover price to $50 very quickly, and then receded, and it was all because he manufactured hype on it. So it's proven that it can be done. So, I mean, I would like to think that people have good hearts and good intentions, and that they're not doing that. But I mean, anytime there's money involved, especially that much money, somebody's doing something.
What about
crazy.
White Vision?
What about what?
White Vision.
I think White Vision was. I think everything that's
that book went from cover price to or $5 or whatever it was to.
Nobody cared about it when it happened, and I'm surprised that people cared about it when it was on a very convoluted, confusing television show that I didn't.
Went like $150.
It's insane. It's back now though. Like it's not at that level now. I mean, the market will correct itself eventually, but that's I think that's a symptom of where the market is in general now, though, where something will jump in price exponentially.
You don't think that was because of the social media influencers? Like, hey, look, this is the cut, and then people.
I think that's people hungry for a spec. I think that if it wasn't White Vision, it would have been something else similar to that. That like we're at a point where people are literally hunting for the next Walking Dead, the next cover price book that's going to be worth $5,000 a couple of years from now. So everybody is hungry. Look at Oblivion Song. The book was trash for so long. Now
the one I still don't understand is Blue Adam. Like,
Blue Adam? Yeah, there's a ton.
What is this character ever? Like, I don't even. Whatever. I'm not even going to go.
The Weasel, man. Come on, Suicide Squad. He was in 5 minutes of the movie and he drowned. Spoilers. Yeah, but I mean, his ridiculous first appearance has gone up. It's crazy. I think everybody is so hungry for a spec. Everyone is so hungry to make money right now.
So
that they get played.
I'm not saying that it's happening in the industry, but it is one of my fears that that there is manipulation going on in the.
We watched a YouTube video of a guy that blatantly showed him forging a signature and sending it to CBCS and getting a yellow label. He documented the whole thing.
Well, we'll get to that in a second because that's our next topic. But,
Jumping the gun.
Yeah, you're a little bit.
It's okay.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, there definitely is manipulation, but for this one, I was talking strictly market manipulation, and I think there's one of the things that people talk about is trimming is very hard to detect in comic books if it's done correctly, because if you take off just a small percentage of it, you're not gonna be able to tell like it's missing like
sure
1/1000th of a whatever
sure.
To sharpen the edges and stuff, which makes me wonder how they caught them on the.
I think that was a case of
they got greedy.
They got super greedy.
Cleaned up a card they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, and I guess like when you're talking in terms of a couple $100, $1,000, couple $1,000 to $10 million cards, like things that are worth a lot of money. I think greed just definitely got them in the end. They tried it a bit too hard. I think it's naive to think that there isn't some sort of market manipulation, whether it's very blatant or whether it's just, I'm excited about this and I'm sharing this and now everybody else is buying it.
And it may not even be one concerted effort. It could be several concerted.
Sure. Do I think there's like some crazy like dark backroom CIA conspiracy? The Illuminati is manipulating the comic market, and
you should always believe that.
I mean, just in general, you should always believe the Illuminati is manipulating everything. If you read Department of Truth, it's, yeah, so I think that there is, on probably less of a level than we think, hopefully. But to think that there's not some kind of market manipulation, that somebody's not out there trying to make more money for themselves, is kind of naive and silly.
Well, we will hopefully not have to revisit this topic.
I have a feeling we will, though.
Unfortunately, I do think I do too, but mostly because I think I've told you before. I've had a couple big dollar collectors come in and tell me that there's definitely market manipulation going on, and then they would spend an obscene amount of money, and I'm like, "But you just told me that there's." I'm like, okay.
We can't help ourselves. We're addicts.
Maybe, I don't know. So we'll turn the page on this one. Hopefully,
we're gonna turn it
forever.
Good. I have a feeling we're gonna come back to it though. But
and topic number 2, we come right back to it. So as Chris alluded to in topic number 1, there was a guy on YouTube who claimed he was verifying CBCS's claim that they can verify signatures.
Yes.
I forget which signature he forged, but he forged a signature on...
the name escapes me at the moment. It was prefaced by, it's a very simple signature to copy.
Well, Adam Hughes is like the easiest one.
Yeah. But yeah, he shows himself like, with his paper, practicing with his Sharpie. Like, I guess he has a book that he was signed by said artist.
You can buy one of those instruments where you can just put the pen and stuff in there and it'll do it automatically for you.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Yeah. I think he was taking a more DIY approach to it. So he documents himself literally forging a signature on a book,
and he submits it.
He actually says, like, he goes back and says, like, when I did this, I did it very poorly, and I didn't think that this was going to happen. So he submits the book, and it comes back yellow label.
So now there's a lot of doubt cast upon CBCS. Now I'm going to be very honest. Like, I love CBCS. I have used their signature verification.
Sure.
This does cast a large amount of doubt on the service that they're providing for this. As far as I've seen, I haven't seen any reaction from CBCS. I haven't seen any articles or anything.
I mean, you could kind of call it like a isolated incident type of thing. At least you would like to think it is. But that whole service is kind of subjective anyway. I mean, the nature of it, as we're just kind of taking you on your word and we're comparing notes to signatures.
It's for entertainment purposes only.
It really is. I mean, it's so tough with the amount of weight that these grading companies have in the industry right now, in the collecting community.
So the thing with CBCS is they're the only one that offers signature verification without a witness being present when the book is signed.
Right.
I think CBCS should have gotten out in front of this when this video rolled out.
Yeah.
I think they should have announced, hey, we're shutting down our verification process for right now. We're going to do a probe into how this happened and whether there are things we can do to tighten up the scrutiny.
I think short of like hiring handwriting experts or like forgery experts, I mean,
And I think I was always under the assumption that's what they were doing. We're bringing people in who had that type of experience. I mean, that's how they kind of
FBI.
That's how it was kind of.
Also work for CBCS.
No, I mean not the FBI, but I mean there's all sorts of.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of collectible markets that do signature verification. Probably pay as well, if not better, than depending on how big they are.
Change careers. I don't know. It's verifying signatures.
And I'm sure that a large part of it is probably computers checking.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you I know my signature's been the same forever, but it's still slightly different every time I make it. It's human error.
Well, my understanding is they're looking for loops and stuff like that.
Sure, but I mean, also if you look at Stan Lee, he's a big one. It's a very recognizable signature. But if you look at Stan Lee's signature from 20, 30 years ago compared to a couple of years before he died, his signatures were vastly different.
Yeah.
Which is sad. And I guess I keep going back to like the signature that he forged or experimented with, whatever you want to call it, was a very, very simple signature. It was just kind of some shapes.
But I think that they would have been, it would be in their best interest to probably shut it down for like 2 or 3 months, do an investigation, hire an outside
It's a lot
auditor.
of money for them to lose.
I understand, but if people don't have faith in the service that you're providing, then... Now, I will say, unfortunately, the grading wars are very much like...
when
like
you,
a religion at this point, because if you're a CBCS guy, a lot of people are like, "Oh, they can't do anything wrong." If you're a CGC
I see
guy,
it in the forums all the time. Like new people, like what company is best to submit to, and it's like the Coke or Pepsi thing. CBCS is trash. CGC, there's CGC will get more money. It's crazy. But in general, we kind of all put our faith in these opinions from companies, you know what I mean? Because very much grading is subjective, you know what I mean? Verifying his signature is subjective. So, the whole thing is based around some guy sitting at a table looking and giving his opinion on something and saying, this book is what I feel. And I know that there's redundancies and there's 3 people that look at the book or whatever.
It feels like it's almost like palm reading at this point, though.
It kind of really is. In all honesty, and with the amount of people that are sending the amount of books that they're sending to these companies and the backlog that they have, at some point, maybe things aren't getting looked at the way they need to be looked at, or something's keep falling through the cracks.
So the reason that I said CBCS should get, even if they lose money on the signature side, I felt like they need to do it, and I feel like they still need to do it, is because they were clearly catching up to CGC in terms of price and everything.
Sure.
Their turnaround times are much faster than CGC right now. And this has the possibility, if one part of your business is suspect, people will start asking questions about the other. And I don't want that, because like I said, I like CBCS. And I'm not like those guys online. If you do something that I think is trashy or unethical, I have to call you out, or else people don't believe me. Like when I tell people.
I think that it is kind of funny that there hasn't been more waves made about this than there was. The guy isn't like some huge YouTuber or anything like that. But you would think that maybe, like you said, they would try to get out in front of it and make some kind of statement like, "Yo, you bamboozled us. Shame on you." Well, this is what we do. You know what I mean?
They posted their TOS on the one thing, and it says that if you do that, they will ban you from using their service.
Okay.
I thought that was weird, but
the ban hammer. If you're forging signatures for yellow labels, you're make a fake account. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like there's ways to get around
Submit
that.
through stores.
Sure. There's all kinds of ways to get around that. Yeah, it's just it's crazy sometimes when I think about how much faith we put into somebody's subjective view of something. Yeah, totally. And it's worth a lot of money, or a little bit of money.
Like I said, I've got like 4 signatures I think verified through them, and now, like I said, much like a lot of people, I question.
Sure.
Hopefully, like I said, CBCS can get in front of that before it becomes something that damages their business.
Reputation.
Reputation is the biggest thing. Like I said, it goes back to the first one. If you don't have it, people start losing faith, and they stop using your service.
Next thing you know, you're PGX, and nobody likes you.
Nobody wants to be PGX.
Nobody wants to be PGX. I don't think PGX wants to be PGX.
That's why they started PGX East.
PGX East.
So we'll turn the page on that topic. We want to thank you for watching. Please remember to LCS, like, comment, subscribe to your local comic book shop, LCS, Brainstorm Comics and Gaming, in Walkersville, Maryland, Frederick, Maryland, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to visit Chris at American Tattoo in Brunswick, Maryland.
And buy more comics.